Righto, welcome back to Cooking with the Fishy Bastards. We're going to utilise some of that meat that we got off that young Samberhine the other day. And I think this jerky recipe that I'm about to show you is one of the best jerky recipes that's out there. It's definitely not complicated. It's probably it's super easy to do. You don't need to measure anything out. You just need quantities. And it's quite basic. So I'm just going to start off with what we need. We need a large mixing bowl. We need equal parts of soy sauce. We need teriyaki sauce. Now it's not exactly the same quantities, but it's near enough. We need what I think is the secret ingredient. It's Spring Gully's Worcestershire soy sauce. Worcestershire? No, Spring Gully's Worcestershire sauce. It's got apple instead of anchovies in it, so it really sweetens it up. If you can't find it, just add some brown sugar or a couple of cups of apple juice, which will be fine. Powdered garlic. Now, this one's powdered onion, sorry, I do have powdered garlic there. So, powdered onion and powdered garlic is found at your at your Indian grocers. I don't think you'll find it at Woolies or Coles. You might find it at your fruit and nut stores. So, there's 3 bottles gone in. So, I add 3 scoops, tablespoons, dessert spoon, tablespoons are. 3 tablespoons of onion powder. Now not heaped. Then I use, where's my garlic powder? So I've got put in the onion powder, now the garlic powder. But I'll write all this down in the comments anyway. Oh, sugar had a bit of an explosion. Doesn't matter. We're cooking rough here. So, 1, 2, 3, the same as the garlic, same as the onion, 3 of each. Now it is quite flavoursome this. Now I add ground peppercorns, black peppercorns. And I better get a fresh spoon for that. I add 1 tablespoon heaped in there. Now, that's the marinade. We'll put them aside because we're going to need these later on. And bear with me, I'll just get out the whisk and I'll clean this table up and I'll be back with you. Righto, it's simple as. That's it, you just whisk this up, turn it into, well, it won't be that pasty, but a thick liquid. Takes a bit for the powder and the powdered onion and the powdered garlic to mix in. Now, you just soak your meat in this. So, we'll mix this up. After this is mixed up, we'll leave it sit aside for a bit for all the flavours to mix in. And there we go, that's all mixed in, so we'll just put that aside. Next step is, we've got the 2 pieces, well I'm just going to cut up one for the camera. There's 1 piece of meat. What I've done is I've put it in the freezer and I've pulled it back out again and put it in the fridge. So it's become like frosty, it's heaps easier to cut. And because it's heaps easier to cut, as I'll show you, use a big knife, it's heaps easier to cut. You'll be able to cut it very thin. And that's what you want. You don't want it super thin, like paper, but I have it about 5 mil. And you just cut through it all. And you can see it's still frozen. Now, that's not a lot of effort what I'm doing there. Like I'm definitely not using heaps of effort. And it's cutting through quite fine. Now, any lean meat, especially game meats because they are so lean, are very good for jerky. The meats with a lot of fat on them, like lamb and that, seem to go rancid. And I don't think the fat is very good at the drying process. So, venison, kangaroo, buffalo, anything like that that is game meat that's found in Australia, scrub bull, that's all very good. Even beef, lean beef you can use. Obviously you can use lean beef. Anything like that is perfect to use for jerky. Now if you look at that, it's such a red colour. And that's about 5mm thick, but that'll shrink right down. And I don't cut it with the grain, I cut mine against the grain. It sort of makes the jerky a hell of a lot easier to eat. You don't wrestle with it when you're trying to eat it. So I'll just continue cutting this. Righto, that's all cut up now. I've still got another one in the sink, but I'm going to save that for later. What I will do is I'll bring back our marinade, and all you've got to do, I leave mine in quite big chunks like that. Now, as you can see, they're not massively thick, but they're not thin either. I like to have mine a little bit chewy, still not so dry, and these will be perfect after we marinate them all. So I just dunk them all in the marinade. I'll push them down one by one. And this will go into the fridge. This will go into the fridge for about 12 hours to let it soak up all that marinade. All right, here we go. It's about 16 hours later. It's the next day, and you know what? The sun has just come out. It's been raining for 2 days. So it's been a good day to do this jerky, or good weekend to do this jerky anyway. So that's been marinated. I did change up the container again because my partner came over and she said, I've got something better for that to go in. So this is a big plastic one anyway. All right, so that's darkened right off that meat. You can see the colour of it now. It's gone quite brown. It's taken up all the good stuff that it needed to take up. And don't worry about it being too thick. Like a lot of people say, you got to cut it thin, you got to do this, you got to do that. But you don't have to. There's not really any rules. Besides for it needs to be dried and it needs to taste good. So what I'll do is, this is the dehydrator that I use. I'll just make sure you can see that on camera. Hang on a tick. Yeah, you can definitely see that on camera. I'll just pull a drawer out. It's got 1, 2, 3, 6 or so drawers. We've just got to load these up. So what I do is I normally take out a bit and I strip a lot of the juices off, and I'll just lay it down like so. Just try and get all the gaps out of it. This one here, we'll load it again. Now I'll just show you a couple of, and get that, there's still a lot of fascia and stuff like that on it, but it doesn't matter as long as there's no fat on it, because the fat will go rancid. You can't really dry that out. They do with another style of jerky, biltong, which is a South African style, but they use vinegar, and I'm not really a fan of vinegar. I like sweet, salty things, not vinegary things. So we get that like that. Now, if you remember, I made that powder to go on top out of the powdered onion and the powdered garlic and the black peppercorns. That there is in, just put a little bit of space between them, that there's in that jar. So I'll just wash my hands. And the easiest way, one of the easiest ways to do that, I've found, is to open this jar up and just tap it through just powdering the top. Now you don't need much, but it'll stop it from coming out with clumps in it and falling straight on top of the venison, the deer meat, the buffalo, the kangaroo, any lean red meat that you can find, really. It's got the peppercorns on it. I'm going to throw some more peppercorns on it just because I like it hot. Just grab my bag. I'll grab this bag over here. Now, some more peppercorns and some chilies. Now that powder's on there, we can actually, it'll help the chili pepper stick, the ground chili. Now, sometimes you can get mild chili, other times you can get hot chili, and they're quite mild. They're not that hot. So I'll just give them a sprinkle. Now, when you put these in a bag, they'll come off. They will come off. They'll just come off in the bag, so don't be too shy to be generous. Put that aside. Now, a bit of peppercorn. Just put as much as you want on. As much as you want. Now, I'll do some for the adults and some for the kids. And the kids also like to see how spicy they can go too, but you don't want them throwing it all out, so I sort of do half and half. Now, this tray, this dehydrator, you set it to about 70 degrees. You can also do it in the oven. If you do it in the oven, you've got to keep the door ajar with you just use a wooden spoon, and I set the oven as low as it can, fan forced. I just put the tray, I hang it over the trays, but the thing is your oven's going to be going for a couple of days, or a day, but as low as it can. So about 60, 70, 80, 90, even 90 degrees is a bit hot, 90 degrees. So if you can keep it around 70 to 80 degrees with the door ajar, and you keep it open with a wooden spoon, you just jam the wooden spoon in there sideways and let that hot air blow across it, you'll be able to make jerky that way. So you don't necessarily need a dehydrator, but there's 1,000 different ways to dry meat. I think the original places that they used to do it, like in Canada and Alaska, they didn't even do it. They just did it and they got a cold breeze blowing across the top of it, and that was enough to dry it out over time. Winter time's probably better because you don't have the blowflies around or the insects that are going to get into it. But the best way that I found, just go and buy a dehydrator. This one, there's plenty of them out there that people will get rid of second hand. This one was a brand new one, but I have got another second hand one that I found at Hard Collection. So I'll just give it a wash out and use it. Like a shame to see it go down the tip. So anyway, back to it. There's the meat. It's got all the spices and everything on top of it. You just slide that. I'll slide that right in the top. I'll find some room there. She goes in the top like that. The door goes on. The timer goes on. Well, the machine goes on. Temperature, 70 degrees. Time, you just go as much as you want. I'll put it on for 13 hours and we'll see how we go. So the thicker the meat, the more time it needs. But 70 degrees is quite fine to dry it out. Anyway, I'll keep doing the rest of the racks and I'll see you when it's all done.